Welcome everybody to the UNNORMALIZED podcast. This is your host Frankie A, and I'm back with another awesome episode with a super dope guest that I find absolutely fascinating, and was dying to get her on to talk to her about some of her experiences. I think she has a powerful message that not only women out there are going to love to hear, but for viewers just in general as well. So today I am joined with Carrie Bernans from, you guys are going to know a lot of the work that she's been in, some big blockbusters, Black Panther, Avengers, Luke Cage, SEAL Team. She's done work with The Walking Dead. She was doing some work in X-Men Dark Phoenix. She's an actress. She's a stunt woman. She's a martial artist. She's a dancer. She's a pro athlete. I mean, you name it, and she's tackled it and taken it on. So welcome with me, Carrie. Thanks for coming on to the UNNORMALIZED podcast.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for your invite. I'm so happy that we were able to pick out a time to do this, and I am a fan of your work as well. I love the message that you are giving. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. So, Carrie, let's talk about, I like to get the inside scoop on, when I'm talking to people, I think a good way for fans to connect to the artist or the guest that I have on, and that's to talk about like the humble beginnings of your come up. So why don't you tell the guests a little bit about who Carrie is, where you came from, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in Richmond, Virginia. So this is a short story. It's a longer story. I was born in Richmond, Virginia. My mom was 17 when she was pregnant with me, so I was born to a teenage mother. She was with my dad for like the first 4 to 6 years of my life, and then they had my sister a year, 9 months later. My dad was physically and emotionally abusive. They had many disagreements and arguments. One day we left from Panama, hopped on a plane, and moved out to Virginia. And then basically from about 5 and a half, 6 years old until I was about 15, 16, I moved around to new school every 6 to 8 months. I was in and out of poverty. We had experienced moments of homelessness as well as just really didn't have a home, didn't have like a decent place to go to, and it caused a lot of, dealing with that as a young kid. You always aspire to want to achieve more, aspire to want to grow more, push more, know more, and then at the same time you always question like why things happen. But as I grew older, I had amazing teachers in my life. I was in a lot of really great after-school extracurricular activities and programs due to being like in poverty or lower income. I got scholarships for stuff that maybe I may not would have gotten or my parents would have had to pay for if I was really privileged. But that shaped the person I am and also made me extremely competitive. So I ran track, cross country, since I was in like late elementary school, maybe 6th grade, all the way throughout middle school and high school. I also played soccer for over 10 years. I've done dance for over 10 years. I was the girl that would run and jump out of a tree, jump into a lake, swimming. I did all of it. Like, I was just like, I was a tomboy sometimes, and then sometimes I was like a girly girl. But I was nowhere in between. I've always been really in my like ways of being just like fun, carrying that wild in ways of doing like crazy drugs or anything, because that's not my route. But I could say like I was always given like 2 hands. There's me allowed to understand times what I was doing, make a testimony, I should say. So I saw my mom work really, really hard to make ends meet, and that never like left my sight. And I always was like, I'm gonna do better than this. My kids would never have to struggle like we struggle. They will never have to eat cream of chicken and rice every day, or ramen noodles, or whatever the case may be. Not that they're not good. Those desperate food for a desperate moment.
Sure.
Like, so yeah. I mean, and one of the things too, how I got into entertainment was TV was always my escape. As well as like writing was my escape, and then sports was my escape. If my mom wasn't at home, that's what I did. I was watching TV, or I was writing, or I was always like practicing sports for hours, or playing in the streets with kids and stuff. So I always wanted to get into the arts. That was always something I whenever we did go to family reunions with the family, I was able to play around, and I would share what I had learned, or I would reenact how she had on TV. My mom was always like, "You're so dramatic." Yes, I am. But yeah, well, I'm gonna let you ask more questions before I continue on, because it's probably a long answer.
Well, no, I think, and that's why I asked that question to start off my interviews, is that we often, as people who are in entertainment, we get to see the polished, we get to see a character that you're playing, but we don't really, we get to read bios and everything like that, and we get to see very little of who the individual is. And I think that lends to the greater message of the story of perseverance and things like that people latch onto as fans, and makes us greater fans and more invested into what you do as an artist. And I love to hear stories of where people have come from, because I think it's such a powerful message that, people need to understand that it takes a lot of hard work to work in an industry like the entertainment industry, and the message that you can provide to people that are listening, Carrie, are that no matter what you do, it doesn't have to be entertainment. It could be, working a 9 to 5, if that's the route that you want to take. But whatever you do, struggles and barriers and all that kind of stuff can be, they can be heavy, and they can shape and mold the people that we are and we grow up to be. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to hold you back from.
Absolutely.
From.
I am a firm believer that your circumstances do not define you. It's what you make out of what happens. And you have to. Like, everyone has a story. I don't believe, even the person I was with Richard, like, even what's going on in the UK, which I don't know all the details to speak on, but, like, we all have our different struggles, and we all have some learning messages important that not only do we share this for transparent and to be able to motivate and inspire someone so they know they're not on their journey alone, but also to remind ourselves that where we came from, so we can go up from there. And, just motivation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think more importantly now, with things like the Me Too movement and women really coming into saying that we are just more than objects of, whatever, that society has made up for women, that there are stories like yourself on being a strong, powerful, independent woman is really important for people to hear. And again, not just for females, but for males out there as well, who are raising young boys and raising young girls, that, we need to now, because we live right now, Carrie, in such a divisive world where I think we tend to forget about stories like yourself, and individuals who have come up from, adversities that maybe would pull some other people back, that a strong message and story like this goes so far. I mean, I can't tell you how stories like yourself touch the people that I work with every day, because they're so lost in those things that hold them down and what society holds them down, that I like for them to listen to the show, because it gives them a purpose, it gives them inspiration, and it's just phenomenal that, you know, I can talk to somebody like yourself that, you know, people may not know the backstory to who you are and where you've come from, and that is so powerful to people to hear that a fellow human being in this intense world can you know, come up from that and, you know, have this such an awesome career like that you have right now going on. And let's talk a little bit about that. So how do you come from all of that to being in family, you know, gatherings and reenacting scenes from TV shows and movies? What kind of was the thing that made you say, hey, I'm going to take that and I'm going to, you know, I'm going to make this like a career for myself?
Yeah, I always wanted to do that since I was a young girl. Like, I always said I was going to be an actress. So I think people always kind of brush it off and say, you know, like, oh, yeah, okay, you know, like, it's just like, it seems to be like a really big dream. And I think in reality, like, a lot of people have these very big aspirational dreams, and as your parent or guardian or family member, they feel like they don't want to get your hopes up on stuff. It's easy to, like, say, like, apply for an office job and get it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's still not easy because not everybody can get it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But it's more attainable, it's more easy when they, like, you try to become an actor or something. It's such a rigorous process, and people know, like, how many people commit suicide to chase their dreams and go get opportunities, and they spend so much time in Hollywood, or the same people have tried their dream themselves. So, anyways, I remember telling my family I wanted to do this, and some said, yeah, and then some were like, oh, but you should also do this, you're really great at that. And when I was in college, I had an opportunity to go to Atlanta and understanding the entertainment world a little before. I was young, I was 17, 18 years old, and that's the first time I realized what a background person was, what were extras, what was, like, just different terminology that I wasn't 100% familiar with, because we didn't learn that in, like, high school. And I then had an opportunity to read some lines on a show because someone didn't show up, and I didn't know I was one of the girls that was in the background for the show, and I was just learning what the process was. And then I was able to do some lines. It was the first show. It was on VH1. And then that kind of hit that switch of, like, wow, this is possible, I can do this. But at the same time, I was studying international economics in college. I also was studying Asian Studies, International Trade, and I had, like, a minor in theater.
Whoa!
Yeah, so, I mean, I was, like, on this, like, really big, different path, and I was also running track at the same time. So I was a student athlete. So it was a lot of stuff going on. But to fast forward the story, I got injured running track. My injury put me in, like, rehab for a while, which led me also out of practice earlier than everyone else. I got to go back to campus, realize that there's life outside of running track. I ended up quitting track. I ended up coming back to it later on in my career, but quit it. I went and studied abroad. I went to, like, London, Germany, Paris, France, and then I went to China for another year. And I liked it. I started doing acting in China because I was, like, automatically became, like, this famous black girl overnight there, which was, like, this whole crazy, that's a whole nother conversation about that system. But it's a lot different now. But I feel like 5 years ago when I went, I was, like, I was just young, and I had curly hair. I was that American black girl, and they thought, like, oh, my God. So I did, like, a Nike commercial there. I did a movie there, fashion shows, everything. And I was like, oh, my God. Like, it started to really stir up me wanting to be an actress again.
Mm-hmm.
So then I also was, like, at the same time, I was super entrepreneurship driven. I was I was freaking like learning how to code stuff, and I was like coming up with business ideas, and I was just like all over the place. So fast forward, I graduate college, 2 degrees. I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. Because I have all these offers. I have been interviewed for Microsoft, Google, Kimberly-Clark, International Paper, like a lot of Fortune 500 companies. And like it was like I have a little code in my I was interviewing for a lot of Fortune 500 companies, and at that time, I was telling my mom I want to move to LA and chase my dreams of acting, and she's like, "Well, you need a real job." And I was like, "Well, I also kind of wanted to go through the startup camp that I just got in." I was like, "This would be big too, because like entrepreneurship was like the way to go." I went to like these summer camps through this program called Youth About Business. I went to Columbia University in New York City, and I was also listening to Vanderbilt during summer, so I was learning about the whole world of business, ready to conquer the world. When I was just like, and then I was just like, but I still love acting. So then I ended up putting acting on the back front, and I put business on the front, and I was just like, you know what, let me try it out. I moved to Wisconsin. I ended up taking a job with Kimberly-Clark. It was a job where I was able to travel to Canada, and I was working half in Canada, half in Wisconsin. And it was great until it wasn't, and then I was like, I was just outworking everyone. I was outworking my skill level. I couldn't look for a new position because it wasn't a year and a half. And I didn't like anybody putting restraints on my career because I'm a hard worker, and I was above average on every single metric that they were checking. So I ended up taking an interview with the MBA, changed positions, left Clark, went to the MBA, putting in now 60 to 80 hours a week, traveling with them, being there. It was the whole thing. And then I realized that I don't like basketball anymore. As I continue to work in it, there was a lot of stuff that happened behind the scenes that I can't discuss with NBA, and I just was like, not really feeling it. So I just was like, if I'm going to put in 60 to 80 hours a week, I need to be doing something I'm extremely passionate about. So why don't I move to LA and chase my dreams? And you know, I could start a business on the side because I'm super entrepreneurship driven, and I can make money. I have no problem making money. I'm a hustler. Like, I was born a hustler. I had to, like, figure out how to make ends meet as a kid. So I can make ends meet as an adult. And I remember, like, submitting to agencies and one team less than the next. I got, like, 5 different meetings, flew there a week before I planned on moving, took all the meetings, and boom, 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 I got offered to sign up for the first agency. I think I turned down the rest of the agency, told them I can't meet, flew back to Cleveland, Ohio at the time where I was working with the NBA career team, and I quit my job and said, I'm moving out to California. And I moved out, and I came up with the vision board and stuff. Like, I'm super visionary driven, and but I had, like, not big visions. I'm like, I'm going to Oscar in a year. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, you know? I was going to join the union, and I was taking acting classes too. Although I was doing, like, my main focus was always, like, on my job and business, I still, like, I could not get rid of, like, the feeling of wanting to act. So I was taking acting classes, like, 4 nights a week in Cleveland, and I was taking acting classes online in Wisconsin. So it kept going. My creativity was building in the background, but it did have a restraint because, like, I feel like my creative process was being put into a structure when I was in the corporate world.
Yeah, and I love you touched on a couple of things that, you know, strike me in our conversation so far. Is one, the whole vision kind of focused type of person. I'm the same way, and I love that you bring up, because, you know, some of my people that I work with that may be listening will hear a concept that I bring up all the time, and that's like creating vision boards for people, because sometimes it's a foreign concept for people, but when they kind of get it and they understand it, it helps them kind of put things tangible, especially in those realms of where you're talking about, like, those big dreams, those big hopes, those big goals that we kind of just brush off and say, well, they're so big that I don't think I'll ever be able to obtain them. I think something like that is like super crucial. And then you talk about basically, Carrie, the premise of the show, and that's like when you come to this crossroads, and you have a passion or a dream or a desire. And the only way that I can describe it is it's almost like a magnetic pull, that is constantly tugging at you, no matter what you're doing in life. It kind of, until you start to nourish it, it kind of always comes up. And it's something that, it may be towards something that is, entrepreneurial or in the arts or, something totally that is not built up to, what what you had planned for yourself. And look, I get it. I totally identify with that parent because I am a parent. I have an 18-year-old son who is kind of going into, looking into colleges and going on, into life on his own as a man in this world. And I cringe kind of sometimes because I think about some of the artistic things that I wanted to do at that age, and my parents kind of pulled me into that whole, yeah, but it's not a secured thing, and there's not too many people out there that make it in an industry like the arts or something like that. So I get it. I get how you, as a parent, there's part of you that wants to kind of just, keep them tight and secure and shelter them from the world and have them to have a like a 9-to-5 conventional route type of life and career, so they're a little bit more stable. There's not so much of the unknown, but in that stifles that dream, that hope, that desire to do what is instilled in you. That can be just as lucrative as careers go. And I think your story is like, first of all, I'm floored right now about how such and for lack of a better term, a badass woman you are. Not only all this stuff that in the entertainment field that I'm totally like in awe of that you've done, but all the business stuff on top of it. I think, like, in talking to you and reading some of your experiences, you've not only done some great things in a field where is very male driven, but in business, let's just talk about that for a second. How a woman like yourself, with all these great opportunities. I mean, you threw out some big names there, girl, like Google and Kimberly Clark and some like really big Microsoft. Like, I mean, those are not just household names. Those are like parts of the world that, that make up the world. You know what I mean? So, so to hear that, there's a common thread in your story, and that's just like, I mean, I don't know you from nowhere, but it just seems like if there's a challenge, or if there is someone telling you no, you're probably going to go and prove them wrong.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's 100%.
And I was also impressed in reading about some of your in your bio. You speak 6 languages.
I do slang, I do, yes.
That, I mean, like, that's in itself is, if that's not impressive to you guys that are listening, and then after hearing Carrie's story thus far, to throw on top of it now that she speaks 6 languages, that just goes to show you that the power of when you put your mind to something, that you can do anything. Yes, absolutely. So how did you get Okay, so now we to get back to the story, you kind of gave up all this phenomenal opportunities that you had in the business world to pursue that pull, that magnetic thing into the entertainment business. So, what was the big break for you that really kind of solidified to say, yeah, like giving all that up was the right thing to do because I'm here now?
Oh, a ride to LA. Well, the first thing is like I was like, I'm gonna invest 60 to 80 hours a week into work. I might as well do what I love doing. And then once I got to LA, like, I felt a bit more confident already because I had an agency on my side, and I wasn't doing this alone. So to me, I didn't care. I only knew one person in LA at the time. Well, two people. It was the guy I was in a relationship with, and then it was my cousin that was in jail. And I was like, I didn't care. I just knew that just like I moved to a new school every 6 to 8 months, I'm moving to a brand new city, I can make friends. I was sweet at making friends. I had to make friends before I would be a lonely girl, and I wasn't going to be lonely. So I just knew, like, I had big visions, big goals, big dreams for myself, and I figured out what it looks to make the most money in LA is that you need to be a union actor, and in order to be a union actor, you have to be Pat Harley on a project, and then in order to do that, you have to be, other things have to take place, you know, so when you say my bigger rival, give me an example of, like,
So was there like a specific role that you landed, or even something that you auditioned for that you were like, wow, like I'm here, like I'm really doing it. This is not like a pipe dream. This is coming off the vision board, and like I'm here, like this is really happening.
oh, absolutely. So my first one was probably like my third month in LA. Like I had booked a couple of jobs and stuff, but I really booked the job that really changed my career, and that was for a Ford commercial. It's an internet commercial, but it's tax Harley, which means I was able. Sorry, my words are like blurred. Which means I was able to join the union, and that changed everything because I made like $15,000 off that commercial, and at the time, I remember driving Uber and Lyft and Postmates, and I was auditioning for so much stuff, and I would book work, but it was like free.com, you know, for $15 or 30 or something. So that changed everything, and I got to go to union events and then learn more about how to make money, how to survive in this industry. And I soaked up everything I learned. I just took it and I ran with it. And I remember I went to class like early in the morning at 5:36 a.m. and I would go be in class until 11 p.m. at night sometimes. And in between, I would do some Postmates run and deliver food to make even more money or whatever. But then the next biggest opportunity came when I think the next one was I had booked a pilot, but then it didn't get picked up. But then I think it was Luke Cage first, and then that was like, oh my God, that's one of my favorite shows.
Mm-hmm.
The second season of it. And I was going to New York to film it. I was so excited, but then the next one after that was when I got the call for Black Panther. And I know a couple other things happened prior to that, but I can't think of them right now because they weren't as big as what Black Panther did for me.
Sure.
Because that required so much out of me as a person, my character, all of that. It required me to shave my head bald. It required me to have a whole new level of vulnerability in my work. It was just it was a different process.
And that's like, I mean, talk about, I mean, you don't get bigger right now than Black Panther. I mean, the movie has done far beyond just a superhero type of film. Which I'm a total geek with all that stuff. So, I was so happy that it got the world renowned attention that it did. But to be part of that, it must have been not only a change, a career changer, but just to see like early on, like I mean, just for me, how I would think about it is that this is the reason why I made all those sacrifices to some of the other things that I was doing in my life, and now I'm part of this huge major blockbuster film. Is Black Panther how you kind of got into stunt work as well, or were you doing stunt work?
Well, actually, I got into stunt work because, like, right before I had right before that, I actually had went to, what did I do? I'm trying to remember it quick, sorry. Oh, yeah, I was always saying, like, I'm going to be a black girl James Bond. That was, like, I was like, in order to do that, I needed to, like, learn how to do stunts and, like, more action stuff and all that. So then my dream kind of changed, and I was like, well, in order to do stunts and more action stuff, then, I needed to, I gotta get in class. So then I started training in class, and I found out that there was, like, a deficit in, like, the stunt community for, like, young black girls, and especially if they were, like, small like me. I'm about 5'5.5", 5'6", 105 pounds, and I could double boys, girls, aliens, whatever the case may be. For real. And then I found out it was like a really great, like, lucrative side job instead of like waiting tables. Like, this was my thing, you know. So yeah, and that's how I fell into it. And I ended up looking like I give it up to my mentor, my cat, because he changed my life. In so many ways because of just like his love and aspiration for me as a person, and him really pushing me past like just really pushing me past like other potential that I always had, but he really saw something in me. So I remember even when I had joined this class, I had signed up for some stunt sites and all that, and I realized, like, oh, this is a really cool industry. Like, I've been doing stunts my whole life because I was just a risk taker. I was, like, jumping off buildings and all this, and I was like, people get paid to do this? And I was like, why haven't nobody ever told me? I would have
done this a long time ago.
Someone. Yeah. But, anyways, long story short, when I got the offer to do Black Panther, it was like 6 a.m. in the morning. I remember going to my stunt class right afterwards, and I asked them I was like, hey, can you give me a little moment to think about it? And I went and asked them, I was like, hey, they want me to do this Marvel movie. It's called Motherland, was the code name, and I think it's called Black Panther. Like, I really wanted to do it, but they want me to shave my head bald, and I'm on hold for like 2 commercials and something else. He was like, what? They called you? They really want you? They're going to fly you out there? I was like, yeah, they're flying me to Atlanta and all that. He's like, what did you tell them? I said, I told them I'm going to think about it. You told them you're going to think about it? I was like, I don't want to shave my head. He was like, and so then he like made an example out of me in class. Like, this girl has the opportunity to shave her head to be in a Marvel film. How many of you would shave your head to be in a Marvel movie? And I was just like, oh my God, okay. I didn't know it was like that. But anyways, long story short, he told me, like, if I don't call them back, they probably already gave the job to somebody else. And then I was like, and then he's like, your hair's going to grow back. What kind of method are you using for young girls and boys with the image of beauty and all this? And then fast forward, you know what I did? I shaved my head.
Well, listen, hair grows back, but roles like that don't come too often. So,
hey, that's a good quote.
yeah, you know, and you can use it whenever you want. But, you know, it's just like, I can't say it enough. I think, such a powerful message that you're sending to the young females out there. Not only, you know, about being like a strong, independent symbol for women out there, but again, that beauty is not defined by what society always tells us. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's okay for there to be a strong black woman with a bald head, you know what I mean, who's out there, who is, and look, don't get me wrong, you're a beautiful woman. So, hair or not, I think you would be okay. But, you know, that to say that, you know, you define your beauty, you know, not that society, what you see in a magazine, and cause that's all fake and phony anyway. But what the beauty, and I know it's kind of cliche, that comes from within, and you know, all that kind of stuff, the superficial, the hair, all that, you know, is not to be replaced with strength and confidence and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's a big message. You know, I'm a guy, so, you know, I can only attest to it, but to so much. But, you know, that we're lacking in our world, especially when we're talking to young females out there, you know, who are very impressionable with things like social media and all that kind of stuff, where everything looks so pretty and perfect all the time, you know, that you can be, you know, it's just as powerful to be a bald black woman warrior in a film like this. I mean, it kind of crossed so many other, just from being like a mega blockbuster action comic picture, it just had so many deep messages behind it that I hope people out there really, I mean, obviously from ticket sales they did, but that translated on so many different levels. So to be part of that, I think they couldn't have cast a better person to be in the movie, you know, as because you embodied all of what the messaging of the movie was about, even on screen and off the screen. So, you know, it's just and then you put yourself into something like an action stunt woman type of position in your career. I mean, it's just like you're taking on the boys club like one by one and just saying like, nah, this is not going down this way. You got a strong female here. I could do just as good as you guys are doing. So, you know, the body of your work, Carrie, is absolutely phenomenal. And like, I mean, like, again, like, you're talking like stuff like from Walking Dead and X-Men and American Horror Stories, Luke Cage. Your body of work is just impressive. So talk to me about what do we have? We've heard so much about in this small little interview about your wonderful life experience and journey thus far. So what's in store for you next that we can kind of look out for?
Yeah, I have a big TV show coming out on Fox. I did 10 episodes on.
Nice.
It's called The Ultimate Tag, so that's going to be big and cool, and hopefully I think they're announcing it next month.
Okay, cool.
But they told me I could share the name. So I'm happy because I'm a series regular on there, and then I'm going to be on some upcoming episodes of what is the show? I'm trying to think very quick. I've been doing so much stuff lately. It's I can't even think of the name of the show right now.
But listen, because you know, I always say to people when they're like, "Oh my God, I'm so busy." That's what you obtain. That's what you obtain to do. You know, busy is good. You're like you said, you're a hustle. You come up from the hustle. So I appreciate busy, and I appreciate that, like, you know, all these projects are coming up for you. That, you know, that there's so many that you're like, oh my God, there's so much going on.
Yeah, I did like a Lifetime movie. I worked on Orville recently. I've done a lot of cool stuff, and a lot of stuff is coming out later this year. So I'm super hyped, super excited about it.
For coming on to the Unnormalized podcast and giving us your life story and all your stuff that's going on, and I really appreciate it. Everybody, this has been the Unnormalized podcast with Carrie and Frankie, and everybody just get unnormalized.